live, laugh.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Daniel.
And I'm Christian.
And you are listening to Live, Laugh, Lariat. We have a really special guest here today. We have the protagonist of pro wrestling, Kidd Bandit. How are you doing today?
Initializing program. Greetings, mortals. I am Kidd Bandit, and I am here to error initiating. Oh fuck. There's no visuals. Why are there no visuals? There's no me. I'm just the voice. I'm just the voice of Kidd Bandit right now. We had an error in the program, so we're gonna upload the thing. I think it's gonna take 8 minutes, and then it should be good to go. So sorry about that, listeners. There's no visual right now for Kidd Bandit.
This is history happening right now, live
That's
on this
awesome.
podcast. We love to see it so much.
Yeah, but nobody expected that. Ha!
That is a first for us.
Very fun. So we're gonna get to know you some because you are one of to me one of the most interesting characters and stories to follow in the indie world of pro wrestling, and because not everyone might know you. So we're gonna get down to.
Hey, I would say everybody knows Kidd Bandit.
Yeah, I may have. Yeah.
I am to everybody that knows about me. I am kind of insufferable at times.
Christian, just in wrestling, every podcast needs a bad guy. So Christian just took the role as the heel for this.
I'm a bad cop. I'm playing bad cop. But I just want to dig right in to the most important question. Well, it's not really the most important question, but I'm just curious. What's that favorite anime? That's such a big part of you. That's such a big part of your character. And I'm just curious because me personally, I love Death Note. That was always my number one. So I'm curious about what's your number one or number few?
Oh my gosh. Why would y'all do me dirty like that? I just got here and y'all the hardest questions already. Oh my gosh. Okay.
This is a pro wrestling podcast.
It is. I'm going through it. All right. So the first thing I would like to say is probably Naruto. I know it's basic, but
that's a good answer.
I really thank you. I vibe with it a lot, not necessarily because of the protagonist, which is ironic because, protagonist of pro wrestling, you'd think that I root for the protagonist. But my favorite character from Naruto is Rock Lee, who was,
that's great.
Right. And if you watch some of the earlier Kidd Bandit matches in my career, there's definitely a lot of Rock Lee inspiration there. I for better or worse, try to wrestle like Rock Lee would fight in an anime, and that sounds absurd and impossible because anime physics don't apply to the real world. But I did what I could. So I could only spin so many times in the air before I land that roundhouse kick. Right. So, yeah, that was the Kidd Bandit, inspiration. Early on in my career, I definitely Dragon Ball Z because it was a very integral part of my childhood. It's actually one of the English is not my native language, so watching the English dub of Dragon Ball Z definitely helped me with learning how to speak English.
That's incredible.
Which is that's an exclusive. That's no, I haven't actually said that anywhere. Like that it helped. Like it was watching Dragon Ball Z and certain animes. Death Note for sure is one of my favorites. I don't think I could take inspiration from Light Yagami. I don't have that kind of power, but and I'm not very smart. But the I remember in junior high, I would walk around and sit like L because I thought L was the coolest MFer in anime.
Oh yeah, and this one is just so clever written that it's fantastic. Daniel, you should check out Death Note. It's the one anime I think you should watch.
I have seen Death Note.
Have you really?
Yes. So I have seen maybe 5 animes. I like what I've seen, but I just feel like it's one of those things where if I jump in, I'm gonna be lost forever. Just because there's like like if you watch this, you have to watch that, and if you watch that, you have to watch this, and the next thing you know, like I'm not leaving my house for weeks upon weeks. But I didn't finish Death Note, but
Boo.
there's a part in Death Note where it like changes, right?
Yeah, there's a dramatic shift.
I don't think I made it past that part.
Okay.
But I did really enjoy it. It was brilliant.
I will say this about Death Note is that if you read the story, and I like One Piece. I'm not gonna lie, but it's too goddamn long. What makes that? Hey, don't crucify me, anime. I love One Piece a lot. What makes Death Note really special, in my opinion, as far as anime is concerned, is that it was written with an ending in mind, and like all good things, they all come to an end. And when you have an ending, you could give a satisfying conclusion to to storylines that you write. In fact, like the stories you make don't necessarily have to, they have like significant like plot points that you hit, and when you hit to that. And you hit to a climax, like you don't have to worry about trying to top that. And then like a term that we use in like film and cinema and like TV is jumping the shark, as it were, because when you run out of ideas, you basically write like a storyline where somebody jumps over a shark, and at that point, the audience that you're catering towards are going to be able to see right through like what you're trying to tell. So. I think that's the magic of Death Note, is the fact that Death Note has a definitive end, and it has a definitive like story that was written very, very well. So yeah, so I go off on a tangent. I'm a fucking weirdo.
No, like that is a really good tangent.
And I've heard jumping the shark, and I always feel like I kind of understand it, and I've used it before.
Yeah, that's the first time I've actually heard that in context.
But the way that you like described it, like I've actually looked at the Wikipedia page for like jumping the shark. I know that it's based off of an episode of Happy Days where they actually like jumped a shark. But
what?
Yeah. But the way that you described it is the first time that I've actually like that makes so much sense to me. So thank you for that.
And you were talking about like a definite end in the story, but I'm kind of curious about where your story kind of begins. Like, what's your origin with pro wrestling? Like, was it you were really young? Was there a certain wrestler that you were like, oh, this is awesome?
Okay, so my origin story with pro wrestling is very deeply rooted with video games. I grew up in the Philippines. So when all my classmates would talk about wrestling, I couldn't really relate because I didn't have cable. And in the Philippines, like I guess even here in America, like the only way to really like watch wrestling is through cable TV. I didn't have access to that. So it wasn't until I got access to a PlayStation 2 and a copy of SmackDown vs. Raw 2007, where I was truly introduced to the world of professional wrestling. And the funniest thing about this was I know what wrestling was, but I didn't know that WWE was based off like it was real, because at the time, like, so I got my copy of 2007 as a bootleg, and I see like there's like renders of like these wrestlers like in real life, but in my thought process was like, oh, like actually like these people are like video game characters, because like that's what they were to me, especially because of how they fight. Like, who does a moonsault in a real fight? You know what I mean? So granted, wrestling is 100% real. I would do a moonsault in a real fight. So like I'm like now that I am a wrestler, so I will do that. But like that's what that's what wrestling to me is. It's it started off as like a video game that I later find out that this was an ongoing live action like show.
Did that break your brain a little bit? Like, if you thought it was
I knew
like
that
a video game, and then it's like, wait, this is real?
I have heard stories of like people discovering that about wrestling, but in my case, no, it didn't, because I knew that wrestling wasn't like a video game. I knew it was a thing. I just didn't know what WWE really was. So like I didn't have like I couldn't put like faces to like names as it were. But I remember when it finally like saw it on TV for the very first time. The very first thing I saw was Dominic Mysterio's ladder custody match vignette with Eddie and Ray, and it was Eddie giving a brain buster to Rey Mysterio on the steel steps. And I remember thinking like, oh, like this is cool. Like I'm familiar with like both of them, and I think it's even more sad because I think around that time Eddie already passed away. But in the Philippines, we were only watching reruns of like past shows. So like I wasn't caught up to like I didn't know that the I was watching wasn't current product. So yeah, that was unfortunately like my experience with wrestling. I was very very behind.
Okay. From a lot of people we talk to, their kind of origin story revolves around like the theatrics of it. Would you say that, like, based off your introduction being the video game, were you more attracted to like the in-ring work, like the moves and the action, more so than like the promos and the skits and like the stuff that wrestling can be on a live action scale?
It is kind of a live action like theater if you really think about it. It's the most elite form. You see what I did there? It is the most elite form of theater in my opinion because only once. I have like an error happening right now. There is an error in the system. Stand by for.
No problem.
There is an error in the matrix. Oh God! And voila.
Oh, there we go. We have
Error
video.
has been fixed. So, yay! Hi. We are about to shoot a movie, so that's why I wanted to be able to focus on driving. So,
no problem.
Sorry for all the viewers that they had to contend with just the screen. But to answer your question, yes, I was very much drawn to see you guys inside China. Yeah, she's over there. Sorry. So I was very much drawn to the live action aspect of the product. It was very like only in a wrestling show can you get like a zombie biker satanic cult leader who happens to be 6'10", fighting like an eccentric enigma in a ladder match, which if you think about the rules of a ladder match, the rules of a ladder match is you have a shiny championship belt dangling on like the roof of the arena, and your job is to climb a 20-foot ladder and retrieve this. And by the way, someone in that match is jumping off that 20-foot ladder to someone else. And that kind of like theatrics will take you through the feelings of joy, envy, excitement, anger, frustration, hope, all in the span of 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah.
That is the magic of pro wrestling. And the best part is that's just one match in a card. A good wrestling card will have comedy. Well, you could have romance. It could have drama. It could have it could have all these things crammed into a dialogue-less, for the most part, because like there's hardly in a wrestling match there's dialogue, sure, absolutely, but you don't really hear much of it because the concentration is based off the action. And that's the magic of pro wrestling to me.
Awesome.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Also, the fact that that whole thing is just kind of like, without being said, is just accepted. Like, to an onlooker, like, I've watched it with like my wife before, and I'm just like, this is totally normal. And I look over and she's like, what the fuck is happening right now?
Yeah,
You've got
so
Yeah,
all this
it's
stuff.
that it's that like convention of just accepting everything.
Yeah.
So getting into more of your story, at what point did you decide, hey, I want to stop being a fan, I want to do this? What was that process like? What did training initially look like talk us through that whole bit.
Oh my gosh. I had one of the worst training experiences of all time because so when I started, I was like 200 and I want to say 250 pounds. I was 5'5", so that by definition is like morbidly obese. Give me 1 second. So yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so I was 250 pounds morbidly obese, and I was expected to run the ropes. I was expected to do rolls and bumps and stuff like that. So the experience was definitely hard, especially because I like to think that I did come up to in a time where the the initial training I had was very old school, like, you know, like you're either tough and you can make it, or you don't make it and you wash out, and like nobody feels sorry for you, because that's the harsh reality of the business. Is like you just have to be tough. You can't come into this business expecting, like, you know, it to be like ballet, which, by the way, like I hate that phrase, because I did try ballet one time and it's tough as shit. But like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, like that's the perennial expression, right? It's like this ain't ballet, because like it means this isn't for softies, and it really isn't. Um, and I like to credit like my inspiration as what really got me through was, one, I was broke, and I paid $600 to start this training. So that $600 is not going to waste. I'm gonna finish this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because like you know, like when you're not very rich, you value every expenses that
Yeah.
you do. And I remember I was very impulsive. I knew I wanted to be a wrestler. I just didn't know if I never tackled it at the point where I was in my life, I probably would have never done it. And what really got me the drive to do it was I mean, there's a lot of things, obviously, like, you know, I did grow up, like, you know, my introduction to wrestling might be a little bit different than most, but I like to believe that I am a lifelong fan of the business. I came up like loving like every facet of wrestling. I was mostly a WWE fan until, like, you know, I moved to America and I got introduced to like the indies and like New Japan and, you know, Ring of Honor and stuff like that. But a lot of the stories that WWE told when I was growing up, they were very inspirational. They were very hopeful. It's like, oh, like, you work hard enough, like it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what size you are, like, you know, like you will have your big gigantic WrestleMania moment. And to me, that wasn't like an unattainable goal. It was just like, sure, WrestleMania seems a little far reaching, but
Yeah.
like a like a parallel journey in your life where you get your moment because you worked hard for it. That I think everybody in their life has like a journey like that they can, you know, that they can hold on to. And to me, my that was becoming a wrestler. Now, I hate to like kind of say it because it sounds so defeatist, but that's as far as I dreamed. Was just I just wanted to be able to like wrestle once.
Yeah.
I never in my wildest dreams expected to become Kidd Bandit, Twitter wrestler with, like, you know, all these dream matches. I never once expected that I would get to this point because I was never an athlete. You know, I was a nerd. I was a geek. Even today, like I just play. Like today, I was late for school because last night I played too much Dragon Age Origins.
There you go.
So
Great game.
yeah, so it is, you know, and that is something I really hold on to. Like I really hold on to that, and eh, and the reason why is because if I can get someone like me to do that journey where they have a goal, they
Yeah.
see it, but they're kind of feeling like, oh, I'll never be able to get there because, like, you know, no, like people like me aren't supposed to make it. People aren't like me aren't supposed to be successful, right? Well, like I did it, you know. I mean, I like to think for the most part I'm kind of succeeding as a wrestler, so
Oh yeah.
I'd say
I
so.
hold on to the fact, you know, like, you know, started from the bottom, now we're here. Like,
Yeah.
is that I don't know who's saying that, but I know it's like in every freaking like trailer nowadays. But yeah, like that's the thing is like you start from the bottom, then you get to where you're at, but you never really forget where you're from.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you do forget where you're from, then you're no longer that person. You become like this new thing. And I liked who I was. Like I liked that I like who I am. Like I like the fact that nobody expects me to get anywhere in here, and yet here I am. And I got here like not because I had like, you know, nepotism, or I had like a lot of money, or I had a lot of influence in the business. You know, I wish I was related to somebody in the business, so because this would be a lot easier. But no, I got here because I worked hard. I studied a lot of
Everything is
like
earned.
Twitter
Yeah.
algorithms. And
Yeah.
yeah, so, yeah, and that's, you know, to kind of like circle back to like, you know, Rock Lee is like that's kind of like their character arc, right? Like they didn't have a lot going for them, but they persevered and they got they got really far, you know. So that's my journey, you know.
Yeah. That's awesome. And not only like with hard work, but like people, you got where you are because of who you are. That's gotta be awesome to like know that you are where you are is because people like you. And, like you're unabashedly Kidd Bandit, and that's got you where you are today. So that's, you can't say that about every wrestler.
Yeah, like it very much is. You believed in you to get where you are, but there's so many people also believing in you with you, and that's such a testament to like it's a success story.
Yeah, we our first time we saw you wrestle was at a DPW show, and
Yeah.
DPW fans are great, but like we got there early and there was like 6 people there, full decked out in Kidd Bandit gear. Like I know there's one person that goes to the shows that has a Kidd Bandit tattoo. Like just like not only do you have fans, but you have fans like kind of, I would like the Beatles when they first came over to the UK. That's on a small scale what we saw there.
Yeah, and it's funny because, you know, like frick, like you don't wake up in the morning thinking like, oh yeah, people are gonna get tattoos of me,
Yeah.
or like you don't think that like people are gonna like buy merch and cosplay as you, right? You wake up and you live a life, and I don't know, like that to me is still like, it's still very mind blowing. Like, you know, I don't think I'll ever get used to it, but to circle back to like the live action like theater aspect of pro wrestling and why everybody loves it. Like one thing that I forgot to like touch up on, and I'm kind of ashamed that I did forget, was I guess I did kind of talk about it, but through pro wrestling, you can live vicariously through someone in that ring.
Yeah.
Through the stories that these performers tell. Like for example, like when I'm somebody that's battling anxiety and alcoholism and whatnot, and you know I had friends abandon me because I just couldn't, like, you know, I wasn't like cool anymore.
Yeah.
And when, you know, when AEW was telling that story about Hangman, like with the, you know, like his whole like journey to become the AEW World Champion, like that resonated deeply with me.
Yeah.
You know, that I think that's what I think that's like what gets lost in translation when you talk about wrestling with like non-wrestling fans, is like they don't understand like why we gravitate towards these performers, is because
Yeah.
one, the way the stories that they tell, they're symbolic. They're not just like, the moves are symbolic. They're not moves for the sake of doing moves. They're moves with intent.
Yeah.
And um uh when you find yourself as a performer on the other side of that in the ring, and you're out there and fans are cheering you or booing you, like what you have in your hands is the responsibility to not only entertain the fans, but also to like make sure that if anybody in that audience looks at you and sees themselves in you, it's your job not to disappoint them, because at the end of the day, you as a fan have probably found like a wrestler that you gravitate towards to. Like for me, it was Cody. Like because Cody like was in WWE, then the Stardust thing happened, and then they went out in the Indies and they reinvented themselves, made a whole ass company, and like that to me, like that journey was like so motivational. It's like no, like it doesn't matter like if like this big juggernaut organization is like like has it out for me, I'm gonna make my own path. And that is something that like that's not a pro wrestling story, that is a life story. And
100%.
as wrestlers, we have the privilege to be able to tell these stories to the audience. And the best part is, I believe like like we're the only platform that gets to tell these stories and these like things without much dialogue. We tell them by actual by fighting, and but you're literally fighting for your dreams every time you step in that ring. So that is like the most primitive and primal way of like storytelling, and that doesn't get appreciated at all in a lot of like like, because everybody that looks down on wrestling is like, oh, that's fake. Like, okay, but like the emotions that you can invoke through like quote unquote choreographed dance moves, I'm sorry, that's powerful. That's powerful.
I've always found
and
it
like
I've always found it incredibly dismissive whenever someone calls it fake, because it's like, no, this is raw emotion, this is storytelling, this is like I think in wrestling there's a few moments where you have what I call wrestling heroes. And I had a moment because it was another DPW show where it was Colby's last match before going on, and it was
my gosh,
this surreal thing where I'm like, yeah, he's one of my wrestling heroes. Like his story is such a great comeback, fight for it story that like that transcends wrestling. It transcends art. It's you find yourself in these people, and it's you just connect and latch on because they're in you do live vicariously through these people, and when they're successful, you're like almost so proud of them, and like it's this. I don't think there's another example of it like in life where you can have that feeling when they succeed, you succeed.
Exactly. Yeah. That's such a good way to put it. It's like, their success isn't just their success, it's the success of everybody that like walked that path with them. And and obviously like sometimes people veer off the path that like you initially thought of them. Like for example, like I'm a trans wrestler, like I'm sure there's like I've had fans in the beginning who aren't trans, or they're not even LGBT, but they saw me like go that way and they're like, oh my god, what the hell happened, and so but through wrestling I was able to tell my journey. Like I wouldn't be trans if it wasn't for wrestling, because like it was actually the very first DPW show was, I remember Luther gave me the microphone, and this was not planned at all. So hi Luther. Hi Luther, hope you're doing okay. But yeah, it wasn't planned at all. They gave me a microphone and I was like, what the hell am I gonna say? And I remember just like the crowd was just like happy for me, and I'm like, I am not local here. Nobody here knows who I am. I'm just this like 5'5" kid from California that is punching way above their weight class all the time, because I was like 120 when like I was 120 pounds when that match. was happening. But I remember thinking like, nah, like this is like, because that the living vicariously through other people's advice, like I like that was like Glacier's advice to me when I was at the Nightmare Factory. It was like, well,
Yeah.
to all the students, it was basically, we have in the palm of our hands the chance to like let people live through us, and we have to take that absolutely serious. And I didn't understand what that meant, because like, you know, like not everybody becomes a popular wrestler, right? Like I don't think I'm a popular wrestler even now, but at the same time, like when I was standing in that ring and the crowd was just chanting me, like, holy shit, like these people, like for better or worse, they believed in me at that moment. And that's when I clicked. It's like, yeah, no, like this is not just moves. This isn't even just grappling. This isn't suplexes and lariats and, you know, and backflips and moonsaults. This is a canvas. This is art, and this makes people feel something. And like you said, like it is very dismissive when people say it's fake, because like the emotions are always real. Because I will never forget that moment for the rest of my life. And you know, and I've been alive for 27 years, so it's like, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know.
That's amazing.
Awesome.
And speaking of the creating of art and just cool moments, talk us through the Malachi match. That was something that the internet was just clamoring for, and it was just so cool that was able to exist.
Sometimes I don't even sometimes I forget that's like not like forget, but like sometimes I'm like, holy shit, like that did happen. Oh my god, like I still can't believe it, you know. So fun fact, I did Effie's Big Gay Brunch. I wrestled Paro. There was this clip that went viral a couple like days ago that I reposted, where I took a power bomb on the chair, like the chairs all stacked up. And you know, like I'm tough, I survived. But on the way back from the airport, I got hit by a car, and it sucked because, like, you know, it really, even to this day, like, you know, it just hasn't like completely 100% healed. But I remember that happened I want to say 2 or 3 weeks before the Malachi Black match was a thing. And, you know, I couldn't train. Like I was trying, but I couldn't train to the point that I wanted to. And right before the Malachi Black match happened, I was in Canada doing a different wrestling show. So it was crazy, because like I remember I was with Maki Ito. We met up in LA, flew to Canada together, then from Canada did the show together, then went back from Canada to LA, and did a 2-hour drive from the airport to Pomona. And I was late as hell for the show. Thankfully I main event, but oh my god, like, you know, like I was panicking, I was freaking out, I was very out of shape, and I was hurt and injured. And I remember I don't remember, because I do this thing where my theme song changes all the time, because it's just, I just wanted that to be my thing. I just want to be able to come out to like whatever theme song I want, right? I remember the theme song I had chosen that night was My Hero Academia's My Hero Academia opening, which, by the way, shout out to Eric Academia. She's local in like North Carolina. She finally made her debut, so yeah, you know. Anyway, yeah, I remember that song happened, and I was in the curtain, and I was expecting a totally different song, but it was that song. And I listened to the English lyrics version of that song, and that song is like one of the most inspirational and hyped songs ever. And I know I lost, but I remember waiting backstage and waiting for my cue to come out. And I remember thinking to myself, this is gonna be okay. I'm gonna be fine, because I was made to do this. This was my destiny. And yeah, like, it's fucking House of Black's Malachi Black. They have me beat on every single aspect in that ring. But god damn it, like, if this moment was once, and this was gonna be where I peak in wrestling, I'm gonna make it fucking count. Because you like you never know like how your career will be, right? So at that specific moment, I wasn't thinking about like the future. I wasn't really thinking about the past. I was just living in that moment, living at what the fans were chanting, living at like, you know, the fact that Malachi Black was in that ring with me kicking the shit out of me. You know, I got to wrestle him as Deku, like in full on cosplay.
Yeah.
It was incredible. And you know, and when the match got announced, like there was a lot of buzz because it was definitely one of those matches that like why, but it happened and it generated a lot of hype. Even to this day, people would come like I've had a lot of matches since then, but every time like I go somewhere new and I meet like new fans for the first time, that's the match that people would come to me and say, hey, you know, I love your match with Malachi. And it's funny too because I remember a couple of days ago, like the promoter for Prestige William, he posted like a funny screenshot of like a fan demanding to see that match. So it definitely is like the match that defined my career.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, and I feel like for you, it's kind of, I know like a lot of times people say like overnight success is, and that's kind of like discrediting because there's so much work that goes behind it. But like you have come like in such a short amount of time to where now, like you just mentioned that you were like, you said you casually said, I met up with Maki Ito, we flew to Canada. Like it was nothing, which is just like awesome. Talk us through like,
Oh my God, you're right.
yeah.
like I'm consistently floored in this conversation. Just the names that are coming, like,
yeah,
that's fucking okay. Yes, cool. Yes, killing it.
That's awesome. It's definitely an inspiration to go back to like what you were talking about with like DPW and your journey, and how wrestling helped you with your journey with being trans and everything. What does like that mean to you, and like what does it mean that you're a role model for so many people out there that didn't have a role model, or that wasn't somebody that was out there, and now you're out there for them?
I'm a piss poor role model. Which like I've heard like some people say that's why you're a good role model, Bandits, because
Yeah.
I was about to
superior, and I'm like,
say that.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around that, you know, because it's like, well, I'm just doing me, and there definitely was a time where I'm glad that I was able to catch it, but there was a time where my head was getting too big for my, you know, breeches and stuff, because you know, like success is so weird. It's like fame is so weird. Like I remember the first time I got like recognized at an airport, and I remember thinking I couldn't shut the fuck up about it. It's like now, like, you know, but it, like, you know, but then you like, you know, like you see The Rock at the airport, like that guy probably gets recognized everywhere he goes, right? So like, you know, me getting recognized by one person that happens to follow me on like, you know, social media versus like The Rock, like, you know, very, very, very minuscule, right? But you know, like there is that level of like understanding why these people gravitated towards me, and the reason for that is, you know, it goes back to around to what I was saying, is like I'm proud of my roots. I'm proud that I still very much like the person I was before I started becoming a wrestler. I never stopped being a nerd and a geek. I never wanted to stop. In fact, I incorporate that, and I like to believe that one of the reasons I'm successful is because like of who I am. Being in the position I'm in makes me a commodity, because there's not many of us that irrevocably like embraces that sides of us. And obviously like there's a lot of gamer wrestlers, like, you know, like a lot of us have that like, you know, interest, but Kenny fucking Omega, for example. But like, you know, like I guess like there's the cool gamers, like the gamers that are like on Twitch playing cool games, and funny, like PewDiePie, and like, you know, I was never a cool gamer. I was Twitch streaming for a while, and I gave up on it because I'm like, you know what? When I play video games, I shut the fuck up and I just read the dialogue, because I fully immersed in shit like that, you know. So I'm a fucking sap. You know, I cried at the first Last of Us So that's why I haven't
Yeah.
gotten around to watching the HBO series because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna cry like a bitch again.
Oh, it
Like,
happened to me.
yeah, like
Get it.
yeah. So I've always like prided myself with the notion that I'm trying to be me,
Yeah.
and that's why people gravitate towards me, is because I think I like to think that they could see that someone just being themselves and somehow making it work, because like you know, like I keep bringing it up, like I've always like, people like me aren't really supposed to succeed, and as much as that sounds like a catch-all like hook for like, you know, something like I'm trying to sell people something, it's also the truth, and I don't need to gimmick that. I'm a poor kid from a third world country, somehow lucked out, and here I am. And
Yeah.
I happen to be trans. You know, like, yes, being transgender is a big part of my identity. It's a big part of the Kidd Bandit like lore, as it were. But it's also something that it's not the crux of my identity. It's a part of my identity, and I think that's something that LGBT community, like the LGBT community, wants to see more of, is that people who happen to be like a certain people who happen to be LGBT that's succeeding in their fields without like directly being all about being LGBT. And
Yeah.
I know my Twitter is very centered towards like, you know, trans politics, not politics, but like, you know, my viewpoints and stuff like that. Like I've kind of intertwined it with my wrestling career, but you know, my success wasn't because I was trans.
Yeah.
Because I was already wrestling all across America, and I was already kind of popping off. So it was the journey of somebody taking that leap of faith, saying, I'm going to transition. It's going to affect my wrestling. It's going to affect my career. It's going to like probably like make me lose a couple of fans, but I'm going to do it anyway, because that's the real me. And I don't want to like, you know, I don't want to miss out on the chance of finding myself.
Yeah.
And that's, I think that's what made people really gravitate towards the Kidd Bandit like story. It's the fact that it keeps having twists and turns, but at the end of the day, people could tell it's just me figuring things out, and I love sharing my experiences with people. One, because like I don't have real life friends, so that's why. Not a lot of people want to play Dragon Age Inquisition multiplayer with me, so there it is.
Well, maybe we could change that. I don't know how many of our listeners line up with that, but we'll definitely put it out there for them.
It's a good game, Daniel. I'm telling you. But we'll get it downloaded for you.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch the rest of Death Note and get Dragon Age.
It'll be a good time.
What I'll be doing this weekend. I want to make sure that we're like not taking up too much of your time. I know that you're just ending your day. I have like maybe 2 questions left. First question: who is your like dream opponent?
Sorry, you cut it.
Oh, sorry. For 2023, and then maybe like all time, who would you want to wrestle? Like, who is your
Cody Rhodes? Sorry, they didn't want to cut you off. Cody Rhodes.
That's a great answer.
And then we'd love to have you back on, because we haven't even talked about Cody Rhodes and like your training, and I feel like there's so much we could talk about there. But who are some wrestlers that you think more people should know about?
There's like, oh, you're gonna regret asking me that, because there's so many.
Good.
Yeah.
But let me think. Well, let me give an example from like all facets of wrestling, because like I said, wrestling.
Yeah.
There's genres of wrestling. Isn't that crazy? You know.
Yeah,
like,
that is.
So like, you know, deathmatch wrestlers, definitely check out Dmitry Alexandrov from Texas. Deathmatch Jesus. You know. Colby Carino that we just brought up, you know, like Colby, who is WWE bound, like so. Oh wait, is that no? That's public.
I think it's pretty public. Yeah.
Public. Yeah, like So Colby Carino, Sage Sin here in California, Dr. Cube, you know, Akira, my good friend who just signed with MLW. Y'all should check him out. Non-deathmatch wrestlers, definitely. From the top of my head, freaking like they were literally just an AEW Commander who just did crazy good. Vikingo, who's just like starting to pop off everywhere now too. So but these are bigger names than me that I'm listing. So like, let me think. From check out. There's so many, and like it's like I don't want to name someone and like later on like I'll forget. But yeah, like these people like frick, like now this is a harder question than like what's your favorite anime. So
that hitting reporting by Live Laugh Lariat.
Oh man, now I'm like, there's too many to sort out, but definitely like if you're a fan of deathmatch wrestling, check out all those names. They're all wonderful wrestlers. Jaden, that's someone that I think people should check out. Jaden from Portland, the savior of Rose City, is someone that I think a lot of people gravitate towards too. Donnie Ray, who's a DPW faithful original, is someone to keep an eye out on. And obviously I can't bring up DPW without bringing up Andrew Everett, and
the
Jay
man.
Malachi, like so many talented wrestlers coming out from DPW. Here in Pandemonium we have like someone like Wicked Jack Cartwheel, if you're not familiar with him. Like crazy athletic guy. I saw him do a double corkscrew red arrow one time. Like, I'm sorry, what the fuck, I'm sorry, Black Arrow. So, but yeah, like, I guess like just go to your local indie show, because you never know who's gonna be like your next favorite like wrestler.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Awesome. Are you have any other questions?
No, I want at some point I want to do a follow-up episode, because I feel like we truly only did scratch the surface here, and this has been fun on our end, and I would love to have you back on at some point.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you so much for having me.
Problem. I hope you have a great night.
Thank you.
And thanks again for coming on. Hope you enjoy the rest of your night.
You as well. Bye.
Bye.